my favor, them blessings falling like water. Wake up to new grace, thank God that's my partner. I pass every test and then I go harder. Let go. They say it's standing on business, I say it's standing on.
Yes, welcome, y'all. Okay. Clap it up for one another. What's up? I'm so glad you're here, Mario.
I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad.
Yes. So before we get going, I always like to let everybody shout their people out because I don't want people mad at you. So shout your people out.
Well, hello to everybody that knows me and loves me. I love y'all. And this is my first time on Behind the Bars.
Come on.
I know, shoot. I know I'll be looking at it. Yes.
Shout out
thank
to her.
you.
Shout your people out.
What's up, y'all? I just shout out to everybody, and nobody in particular. Shout out to every creative, every visionary, every person in ministry, whatever you're doing. I'm gonna shout out everybody because what we're all doing is impactful, it's needed, and you're needed. So I just want somebody to know, just keep going, keep pushing. It doesn't matter if you're in the same lane as somebody else, do your thing. So I shout out you.
That's what's up. Miss Goodwin, shout your people out.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to my lovely children, of course, my 2 daughters and my grandbaby, whom I miss so dearly. And of course, my pretty girls. Hey, girls.
Yes.
And everyone else, shout out.
Welcome to Pretty Ladies, representing the pretty girls.
I'm just excited to get your input on this song. This song is The Birds Don't Sing, and this is a song by the Clipse that was released not too long ago. The Clipse came out of retirement, and they penned this song. They lost their mother and their father.
I'll start with you, Tanya. Can you talk about times in your life as you came up where you, quote unquote, laughed to keep from crying?
Yes, a lot. Growing up, I don't want to be emotional. Growing up without my mom, it was difficult. I lost my mom when I was 6 years old. I didn't spend a lot of time with her prior to that. Her and my dad had separated, and as she was beginning to reintegrate herself into my life, tragedy struck and she unfortunately passed away. So a lot of times I wondered what my life would have been like if she had been here. I wonder if things would have been different. Things would have been a little easier. Don't get me wrong, my dad did a good job. He always tried to make sure that I had a woman in my life. But being a teenager, the woman that helped raise me, she unfortunately passed away as well when I was 15. So a lot of times then I would, laugh and, be jovial and, smile and laugh with other people. But at home, I would be sad, lonely, cry. Just depends.
For me, when my mom passed, going through different situations, certain accomplishments, certain things that you do, you're never going to get that push from your mom. You're never going to get that "I'm proud of you, baby" from your mom. You're never going to get that. And so for me, especially around up until maybe the last couple years, around my mom's birthday and Mother's Day, like for years, and I've never said this, but for years, Mother's Day was a day I would just get off social media because I don't want to say that I was jealous. But it was very painful every year when imagine your mom's gone and you're receiving these emails and these text messages and purchase this for Mother's Day for your mom and get this, and these things are happening and you're seeing people post their mom and things like that. And so for me, it was just really difficult. And there were moments, especially Mother's Day and my mom's birthday for years, where that pain impacted me so much that all I really, I mean, I guess for me, it's just like that pain is a pain that it doesn't necessarily go away. It's just something that you learn how to make the best of and keep, moving in life. So for me, Mother's Day, birthday, those days were hard. But as I've gotten older, as years have gone by, I've learned ways to deal with my emotions that allows me to manage in a different ways. So
Maya Angelou, she wrote a book called I Know Why the Caged Birds Sing, which is kind of a stark contrast to what the German filmmakers' thoughts were about birds singing. Is the singing or the laughter or whatever does that somehow help move you through that stuff? Do you think?
Absolutely. I can the song by Maya Angelou, I think that's what that song is saying. I know why the cage bird sings because a lot of times in your life, I'll say like through my addiction with the alcohol and stuff, I can remember looking at my mom and my dad who were once in that same state, addicted to drugs and alcohol and where they are now. And it was like, that's what gave me hope, and it's like, I think it kind of reference to that song. Like, I know why the cage bird sings because, in my addiction, when I thought sometimes I'm doomed because, I'm out here, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. But then when I look at my parents and I see there is hope, I do have a chance, to make it out this life. So, yeah, I think
That's good. So let's go backwards then. Let's go backwards. What was life like for young Andrea?
life for young Andrea. It was sad. I was sad a lot because of, the situations that came about in my life. My parents divorced and at a very young age, and I felt like I went from a happy home to a dreadful home, one that there was not a lot of laughter, and it was a sad time. But a lot of times I found myself not being able to express what I really was feeling, partly being because I never wanted to be looked at as a victim or someone who's always down. So again, those were times where, I did find myself laughing when I was dying in the inside because of the things that were going on in my life, So, but I pushed through, I had, support systems in place, my grandparents, of course, and I got through it. But yeah, there were a lot of times where I found myself, even when I was hanging out with friends, it takes you can get away from it for a minute. You're laughing with your friends, but in the back of your mind, you're always thinking about what's it gonna be like when I get home. These laughs and smiles and giggles is only for a moment.
the way that I was raised in a church family, like just a church family. And this is not to cast any dispersions on anyone or anything like that, but I grew up in a tight-knit church family that was very old school and that didn't really do a lot of I love you and didn't really do a lot of hugs, didn't really do a lot of I'm proud of you. Their way of showing you love, and it's all they knew, but their way of showing love is chastisement. Their way of showing love is you're in trouble because if I don't do it, the police is gonna do it. So this is how you know I love you.
How soon did you realize it was different because you didn't have a mom?
It wasn't long because I was getting in trouble all the time. And my grandma them, they didn't really understand. They didn't really understand that children have lost their mother and they just need love. Like, yeah, they may be bad. They need love because they lost their mother. They may need to talk to someone. There's different things that, from how they were raised, they don't, they didn't look at it like that, So for me, I think, I don't want to, for me, I guess, I think when I started getting in middle school, I started getting around 13, 14. I started seeing kids with their parents and stuff. And mine was always, my grandma's a lot older than everybody else. And everybody else got their young parents around. And everybody's having, we're having a sleepover this. And we could never have those type of things. And it was just like things like that we saw other kids doing that we couldn't do. It was just like, man. And then there were things that would happen where that when there were uncles coming and different people that would come to be the enforcers that would whoop us, it was like that is at the point where I started feeling like, okay, these people don't love me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel loved.
That don't feel like
I get whooped for everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't feel like that was.
You probably really wish your mom was there then.
Oh, it was at a point, and I'm not going to get into the specifics, but there was so much happening with one of my uncles that it was at a point where I used to wish, like, man, and I never thought that, and I used to wish, like, man, I just wish he was just dead. Like, that's how bad it was. Like, as a kid, I was only like 14. So that's how bad it was with that. That old style of, how they chastise and stuff, that I would just be like, man, I just wish, because my mom would never let this happen. Like, that's what I was thinking. Then once I started getting older, when I was like 26, 27, 28, then I was really at the age, my mom passed when she was 33. Mm-hmm. So when I got around 30, I started really seeing things through a whole different lens now, because I'm like, okay, I'm an adult now, and my sister has children now. Mm-hmm. So God forbid if something happened to my children, I know what I would do and how I'm going to be to those kids. I can never replace your mom, but you better believe you're going to get the most love that you could ever imagine in your life. I'm not going to make your life more difficult. I'm not going to add more trauma. I'm not going to just beat you, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to love you. I'm going to get people that can be around you, that can show, because when you lose that mother's love, you need a community.
Feel like she could express what she was going through. We talked about this with It's Been Black Girl Power on the podcast this season. So some of the other women talked about how we have been trained and conditioned to smile through the pain, suck it up, and get through it. And apparently it starts very young, because subconsciously, whether it was internal or external, something told her that don't talk about the pain that you're going through. Did you feel like that kind of stole your voice or hampered your voice in any way?
Absolutely. I mean, there were times growing up, I was very sad. And, unfortunately, our community, especially back then in the 80s and they didn't talk about depression. And I'm a kid. So what do I know about depression, you know? But I was sad all the time. I blamed myself for things. I had questions and I really didn't know where to turn for those questions, or for the answers. I had an aunt who was always present for me, but I didn't always feel comfortable until I got older telling her what was going on in my life, or, you know, what has happened to me in my life. And there's things that to this day that I've kept to myself. And you just learn how to deal with it. And I was just telling somebody this the other day. I'm tired of being strong all the time.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's something we've kind of been echoing through this season too. The Black women that have come on, they're kind of sick of that moniker, strong Black woman. It's like, who want to be strong all the time?
Right. Like I said, she was just reintegrating herself into my life, and I longed for that for so long. My dad and my mom split up when I was 3. So having her come back around like when I was around 5, and then all of a sudden she's gone, but this time forever, you know. Right. So that was really hard. I blamed myself because I was supposed to go visit her that weekend and I didn't. For some reason, my dad told me I couldn't go. And I remember being so angry with my dad for not letting me go see my mom, thinking that if I had been there, then things would have been different. But that's not true. I mean, it could have been different, but it could have been me as well. You know, what could you have done different, you know? But I was a kid. And I've been told like different stories and, you know, different things. And as I got older, I tried to look more into it, and it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming because I knew the situation my mom was in prior to her dying. So it just kind of made it seem like, is that really what happened? And, you know, like, so then you think, and then your mind roams off and it wanders, and you know, and the worst thing about me is I'm a thinker, and I'm probably an overthinker. So, you know, the conspiracy theories kick in, and, you know, when I started having kids of my own, it was like, you know, like, where's my mom? Like, I want my mom to be here and tell me what to do. I want my mom to tell me how I can stop my crying baby. I want my mom to just look at me and say, even now, just to look at me and say, I'm proud. You did a good job.
Tell me then, Drea, what's the happiest moment that you can remember? Like your earliest memory that really just brought you joy, that made you smile?
As a child, my happiest memory is when my mom and dad were married. We had our house on the north side, you know, living the dream. We had the dog.
That's not talked about enough. That in your early 20s with owning a house on the north side of South Haven.
I'm
still trying to figure out how to pull that off.
We were living the life, and I remember the mornings where my dad, he used to give us the piggyback rides to the house. You know, he'd get on all fours and we jump on his back and be flying through the house. Mama, y'all cut it out. You know, just a happy moment. It was everything. Those were the best times of my life, actually.
Yeah, that's good. Taystone, what about you? Name something that made you sing. You know what I mean? What made you sing instead of screeching pain, as the song says?
Spending time with my dad. When it was just him and I. Because, like I said, I had a stepbrother and a stepsister, so we did things as a family. So it was nice to just have my dad to myself sometimes. And, you know, we would go for a ride and go get ice cream. And, you know, he had the fancy little car and we just cruise around. And, you know.
You're daddy's girl.
And I am. Even through our trials and tribulations, my dad has always been a constant in my life. And I can't thank him enough for that.
Shout out to the Black fathers too.
Amen.
We're talking about to the Black fathers and stuff.
That part.
Yeah, that part.
Our relationships, I was so young and just I didn't know nothing for real. Like I thought I knew a lot.
Of course.
I didn't know.
Young people think they know it all.
I didn't know anything. I didn't know nothing.
You didn't know nothing?
I look back, I'll be like, man.
Somebody told you that when you was young too, and you was offended. They told you, boy, you don't know nothing.
Yeah.
Bishop Mario,
Bishop
you don't
tell
know
me that
nothing.
all the time. I used to get so mad. I'm like, you know what's funny? And this might, whatever, but I texted First Lady Wilkins maybe a month ago. And I was on my way to church and something had happened. And I just started realizing being in Atlanta, like you see so much here, you're exposed to so much. I had to text her for her to let Pastor Wilkins know, like, look, I just want to let y'all know that I appreciate everything that y'all did for me. Every time that y'all chastised me, every time that y'all was on me, where I felt like y'all were overdoing it, where Pastor Wilkins was militant and I didn't like it and I didn't like some of the things he did. If he hadn't did what he did, I wouldn't make it in Atlanta because there's a different level of freedom when you're out of, like, it's like, yeah, I'm grown, but like when you leave the house, like leaving Resurrection for me was like leaving the house. Mm-hmm. And when you're open to so much, it's so easy to make this decision or do that, or, you know, I could get away with this or do that. It's like if there wasn't these scriptures, and yes, I'm a church baby, but the scriptures that's embedded in my mind, that came from being under Bishop Wilkins. And when things are going on and things are happening around me, like those scriptures just come to the forefront of my mind all the time.
It's so, like rails.
It's
like rails. Yes. I ain't gonna go that far.
and I thank God for that, because there has been times and moments where I've gotten off, but those things always tend to, all right, and just reel me right back in. So yeah. I know I just got off with that, but that's was right. Important.
That's actually right on, though.
There you go, Nash. Yeah, Nash.
For whether we live unto the Lord. And whether we die unto the Lord. Whether we live, therefore, or die, we are the Lord.
Lost in emotion, mama's youngest. Trying to navigate life without my compass. Some experience death and feel numbness, but not me, I felt it all and couldn't function. Seeing you that day, telling you my plans, but I was leaving you that day. It was in God's hands. Yeah, it was at Elon's, waiting to get with me. On my way to Texas, that's when Virginia hit me. And I realized in that instant, Our last conversation, you was against it. Told you I was going to church for Thanksgiving. I heard what I wanted to hear, but didn't listen. You said you told Jean that Bup needed forgiveness. I see you went to Didi's and stuffed both her fridges. You even told Dad you wished y'all never split it. See, you were checking boxes, I was checking my mentions. Saying you was tired but not ready to go. Basically was dying without letting me know. I love you, Med Naj. Hate that he won't remember you. Two things that break my heart is what Novembers do. And T follows you. Now mind you, Didi calls you. Jean finds you. Was that your vision? Precision. While I'm reminiscing, it all hits different, ma. Listen.
The birds don't sing. The birds don't sing. They screech and play. The birds don't sing. The birds don't sing. They screech and play. The birds don't sing. The birds don't sing. They screech and play.
So let's just start with the first bars. It says, lost in emotion, mama's youngest, trying to navigate life without my compass. Some experience death and feel numbness, but not me. I felt it all and couldn't function. You experienced one of the greatest losses there is to experience in losing your son. Which side of the coin did you fall on regarding that? Was it numbness or did you feel it all and it kind of, crippled you?
Well, that depends on what stage of grief I was in, because looking back, I realized there were times when it first happened, I was feeling it all. When I first heard those lyrics, it was like, nah, I felt it all. But then once I thought about it a little more and dug a little deeper into it, there were times where I was numb. And I think it was during that time where it had first happened. It was fairly new. And like I said, it was like a week into it, and I told myself, Drea, you're going to have to decide whether you're going to let this situation make you or break you. And so I told myself, it ain't going to break me. I'm going to get through it. And during that time, I thought, I got this, I'm okay. But then I think that's where it went numb. Mm-hmm. Because I was functioning, like I stated before. I didn't check out, but I didn't check in either. Like there were things like I should have done different. I had a daughter that was 12 years old. She should have went to counseling. I didn't do that, but during that time, I thought we was good. We making it. God was carrying us. I do believe that, but I do also believe that I went numb. I went numb and I chose, drugs, alcohol, anything to continue to numb.
That's what you used to cope.
Yes, that's what I used to cope, So, like I said, I felt it both ways. In the beginning, I felt it, and then I went numb. And then when I made a decision to get my life in order, start living for God, got sober, then I felt it again, because that anniversary after I got sober, gave my life to God, that anniversary of my son's death, of Kyrie's death, it was like it had just happened. I mean, I was broken all over again, and that's when I realized I ain't been dealing with it. I ain't been grieving, then I was grieving and I was feeling it, but I can say that once I got through the hurt and the brokenness, I cried and I wiped my tears and I got up. It felt different. It wasn't like before. It was actually, I felt like I'm getting somewhere now. Like I'm actually grieving. I'm going through the grieving processes, because there's so many stages of grief. It's like, and I think when you lose someone, the stages, I don't know if they keep repeating themselves, but it's like a lifetime of, working through the different phases of grief. And that's just how it is.
You just learn I think you learn how to deal with it And that's just what it is. It never fully goes away.
No, absolutely
I'm
not.
convinced of that. It never fully goes away. But I feel like people learn how to cope.
Yes.
And you learn life in a different way.
Yes.
Right. So speaking of coping though, so let's just go back to your second mom passing. How did she pass?
She died from health complications.
Okay. So was it something that was extended or was it sudden?
It was kind of, she was in the hospital maybe about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks. But she was sick. Like, she was a diabetic and she was a non-compliant diabetic. And so being a nurse now, I understand it more than I did then. But when she was in the hospital, we lived here in Michigan and my mom was in Pennsylvania in the hospital. And I believe it was my brother who called me and told me that my mom was in the hospital. So when we got the call that she died, I was pregnant and nobody knew. So it was hurtful. It was like, here we go again. You know, like I gave my heart to another mom and now she's gone. So it was painful. And then being at the funeral and I'm trying to hide my pregnancy and yet grieve and let people see me, you know? So people were, you know, afterwards I heard that people were, Tanya looks like she's getting a little big. She looks like she's put on a couple pounds.
And big.
That part. But I was pregnant with my oldest son. And I was a teenager and
the emotions had to be like,
it was
you know,
crazy.
Already emotional because someone died, and then you know the hormones when you're pregnant,
right?
And now I can't even tell everything you're going through
because
oh my gosh,
it was a lot.
Yes.
It was.
That's like stress time.
In so many ways. But as far as what side I fall on, and that it makes me think about when you said that about the compass. It makes me think about the GPS, especially living in Atlanta. Like, a couple weeks ago, my phone had water damage and I couldn't get it to turn on and I couldn't go anywhere to get another one until the next day. I can't get nowhere in Atlanta without the GPS. Okay? I can't get nowhere. And so I tried, I had to go somewhere, so I tried to go without the GPS. And although I made it, it was so much more difficult. You know what I mean? There was so many extra wrong turns. There was so much, I'm anxious, and that's how that feels with that loss. It's like, I may still get there, but if I don't deal with it the right way, I'm always going to feel lost. I'm always going to feel like I don't know where I'm going. What's next? Where do I go from here? And stressing out and overthinking and overcomplicating. So I think for me, I was on that side of the fence for a long time. And then I got to the place where I just had a peace about it. Because at the end of the day, a man born of a woman is of a few days. And we only have 2 days that are promised to us. A day to be born and a day to die. So at the end of the day, I have to understand that whatever God's will is, I know that he doesn't make a mistake. And that's why it's so necessary to have God when you're going through this stuff. I'm not saying that to like be...
I'll say it with your chest.
But it's so important to know him, because I'm telling you, there's been many times where I could have really lost my mind. Like I'm being serious, or many times where I could have just like just lost it because of the pressure or the stress of... There's days where I just want to pick up the phone and be like, man, I just want to talk to my mom so she could just, you know, that your mom is the only person outside of God that is going to love you no matter what you do. That is just an unconditional. My child may be the worst child, whatever, but that's my baby. Okay. And so when you don't have that and you grow up your whole life without that, you have these voids, or you look for love, or you look for this unconditional love, and you look for it in different places, whether it's people, things, whatever it may be. You look for these things, and it's like you get a little high of it, and then it goes away. Or they give you this, and that love feels great, and it goes away. And it's like, sometimes that unconditional love that you're never going to get if your mom is gone, if you don't have God, I do not understand sometimes how people make it and still are in their right mind going through that without God. Because even with him, there's moments where it's like, man, man.
The birds don't sing, the birds don't sing, they screech in pain.
Your car was in the driveway, I knew you were home. By the third knock, a chill ran through my bones. The way you miss mama, I guess I should've known. Chivalry ain't dead, you ain't let her go alone. Found you in the kitchen, scriptures in the den. Half-written text that you never got to send. Combing through your dresser drawer, where do I begin? Posted noted Bible quotes, were you preparing then? I can hear your voice now, I can feel your presence. Asking should I rap again, you gave me your blessing. The way you spelled it out, there's an L in every lesson. Boy, you owe it to the world, let your mess become your message. Shared you with my friends, the pops they never had. You lived for our fishing trips, damn I had a dad. Mine taught discipline, mine taught structure. Mine didn't mind when he had to pull a double. Mine worked overtime, smiled through the struggle. Cause mine wouldn't let us feel what he had to suffer. See, mine made sure he had every base covered. So imagine his pain finding bass in the cupboard. Birds don't sing if the words don't sting. Your last few words in my ears still ring. You told me that you loved me, it was all in your tone. I love my 2 sons was the code to your phone, now you home.
The birds don't sing, they screech in pain.
So he said, on my way to Texas, that's when Virginia hit me, which is a person. And I realized in that instant, our last conversation, you was against it. Told you I was going to Turks for Thanksgiving. Again, that's his Turkey's Thanksgiving. But he was on his way to another country. He said, I heard what I wanted to hear, but didn't listen. You said you told Jean that Buck needed forgiveness. I see you went to Dee Dee's and stuffed both her fridges. There are so many times where I can think back and I'll say, dang, did that person know that they was about to die? Are there things that you think back on now that seem like it was signs that either your loved one knew in themselves that their time was going to be short, or like God was closing a chapter for you, and you didn't even realize it? Either of you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think back when Kyrie passed away, looking back, it was like God was allowing me to experience certain things that I never would have been able to. Like, he went to prom as a sophomore, and then of course he died his junior year, so I was thinking about stuff like that. Like, those moments I wouldn't have never had not God, made a way. And, thinking back and stuff like that, it's like God knew. And he made it not better for me, but I could appreciate being able to see that, because he didn't have to give me that. He didn't have to give me that, but I was able to see that. And then where when we lived in Grand Rapids, he was in such an unhappy place because he couldn't get with the city kids. They were a little too hood for him, and he was facing challenges at school, as far as being in gangs and stuff. And so I made a decision to move back. I didn't have to go to school like this, so my kids don't have to go to school like that. So I moved back to South Haven, and when I moved back, he like flourished. He loved school. He loved, he was a role model for the kids at his school. I remember him coming home. My grandmother, he was staying with my grandmother. She said he came home fishing for some gym shoes, for some old shoes. And she like, boy, what is you looking for? And, he was looking for some old shoes because a young man in his gym class was wearing the same ran over shoes, and the kids were making fun of him. And, my son, Kyrie, he was like, he didn't like it, He stood up for him at school. And then on top of that, he went and found him a pair of shoes. And, he had nice shoes. If he ain't got nothing else, his shoe game was there. And so he bought them shoes and he gave them to that little boy. And that's just, I'm telling you, moving him back here was like the best thing I could have done because he was so happy. He was so happy. The people at school loved him. His peers loved him. He was just an inspiration to everybody, and because he was going to go regardless, because God said it was going to be his time. But just think, if I wouldn't have moved him back and allowed him that happiness and that time to actually be a kid, and he would have passed away while we were in Grand Rapids unhappy, I wouldn't have never, been able to forgive myself, So I think God said things. He does. He set things in place. He does. And
it didn't, like you said, it didn't make it better, but it made it tolerable, because I don't think any of us would have been able to come through. I mean, you can do all things through Christ, don't get me wrong, but I just think that would have been even more difficult for us to all stomach. I know we didn't really say this yet. Tanya, you lost a parent and a child more recently. Or were there similar moments to like what Drea said?
Well, with my mom, my aunt actually told me that, because they weren't speaking, and my mom called her on the phone like a week before she passed, and they made up and they talked, and she was talking about, she wanted her family back. She wanted back in my life, and so I think when that song says checking boxes, she was checking boxes, because I think that she might have known something, but just maybe, she it was just like you said, regardless if I had been there or not, it was her time. Yeah. But with my son, our last time that we communicated with each other, he was like, "I love you, Mom," and I was like, "I love you too." And before that, we were kind of into it because, he was older, and I wanted him to, find a job and work, and the things that moms get on their kids about, and I know he didn't like it. And so for me, my experience when my son passed was, even now I have a lot of guilty feelings and things that I have to become one with, because I can't change it and I can't get that back, what I lost. So, yeah, that's difficult for me with my son, is because I didn't have those opportunities, and I have a lot of regrets. And sadly, that's the worst part of it, because you can't right your wrongs when that person is gone. Y'all can look in there.
Refresh yourselves. Refresh yourselves. You got 2 minutes, Drea. 2 minutes.
Just 2 minutes. This hip gotta just take off running.
It's the
Gotta give it a second. Gotta go like this. What?
It is hip a
Good. I think it's ready.
Give us a The songs on me do the same thing. I stand there right now, I might fall.
So like, man.
So that brings up an interesting point, then. So how do you think that has affected how you choose women? Because that, people always reference a man's mind when they talk about how they deal with women, what type of women that they select. How do you think that's affected your selection?
I